Hello, guys. Welcome to the Marigold Standard, your weekly audio source of all things Dream Star Fighting Marigold. I'm your host, Rob Goodin. I'm joined as ever by Mr. Matt Turner. Mr. Matt Turner, how the devil are you, good sir?
Phenomenal, buddy. Busy as all get up, but in the best way possible. Things are trucking along. I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing, my man? Still not only under the weather, but I guess kind of worse. You sound better, but from what you're telling me, you're not feeling better.
No, so we recorded the Stardom cast where I was basically on my last legs on Friday, and I've basically been one of the illest I think I've been in years and years and years in that 24-hour period. With one thing and another, I'll let that leave that to your imaginations. But it was unpleasant. So yeah, just still recovering from that. It's in my chest and my throat now. But yeah, I'm on the mend. I just didn't think that we should subject our YouTube viewers to my gaunt face at the moment because I believe I would make Casper the Ghost look pale. So it was as I mentioned to you earlier, I'm rougher than a bear's posterior. So I think it's probably a good idea for me to do as little talking as possible, seeing as I'm going back to work tomorrow.
See, that's gonna be the next Marigold T-shirt, guys. I'll try to find a way. Am I ever marketing genius? Question mark to get that going. But no, so what obviously we're gonna do again if you're watching this on YouTube again, as Rob mentioned, just his fancy icon of him in the Mayu Iwatani makeup. And obviously, me over on the other side. So what this is going to be is we're gonna dive right into the news. Obviously, big news coming out of Marigold from this past weekend with Mirai's departure. And then eventually Rob is going to, once we talk about the Mirai stuff, we'll probably dabble into the Naho Yamada stuff. I'm going to review just the one show from this past Saturday, the 20th. And then that's really about it. So Rob we'll get into the news. We'll talk about the Mirai departure. Rob's going to tag out. I'll finish everything else and then just go into this show from this past week. And there's obviously no gaze at Julia. So this may be the shortest episode of the Marigold Stand. It all depends on how deep we get into the Mirai stuff because a lot of it's going to be speculation and what we think may or may not happen. But this is going to be one of the quicker episodes. Again, we'll talk about the Mirai stuff. Rob's going to tag out, and then I'll finish this episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but I mean, first things first, just very quickly, how was Slayer?
Slayer was fantastic. Slayer was fantastic. Hershey Park Arena, a great venue to see a concert. Even though the last time I was supposed to be there, Rob, as I was walking in there, and I was like, I go to my buddy Jeff. Do you know who we were supposed to see here last time we were going to be here? It's supposed to be Ozzy and Megadeth. And then Dave Mustaine came down. He had, I think, throat cancer. Then Marilyn Manson was going to take the spot, and then COVID happened. So it was a little bittersweet going to that building. But what's cool about it is as soon as you walk in, if you're if you're a little sneaky person, you can kind of sneak right into the mosh pit, and that's what we did. So we got there. The concert was supposed to start at 4, but I think there was 4 bands playing before Slayer. So we get there at 3, had a couple of adult beverages. As we're tailgating, all of a sudden I see a guy walking by, and I'm like, hair and beard look like the Blue Meanie. And then as he's walking a little bit further, he's wearing an ECW shirt. And I was like, ECW. And he's like, hey, man. I was like, Meanie, what's up? I was like, can I get a picture? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. So shook my hand. He gave me a hug. And then he said, hey, can you do me a favor? Tell Rob I said I hope he feels better, but he needs to eat his cucumbers. So all that happened except for that last part. So no, so I was like, oh man, it's really cool. Like just hanging out with the Blue Meanie at Slayer. So we got there, and Suicidal Tendencies were just finishing their set. And there's another band after them that I've never heard of before. I forget their name, but they were pretty good. And then Slayer came for 90 minutes, just absolutely rocked. They were phenomenal, just nonstop. Have you ever been to a Slayer show? They don't talk to you too much. They don't. It's not like, hey, what's going
They don't
on? How's
strike me as the
everything?
most personable people, to be fair.
No, and I've seen them probably at least 10 times at least, and it's just like they come on, and it's just like, man, Kerry King, he just doesn't do anything slow. Just one of the best metal guitar players of all time. But they started out with South of the Heaven, and they went to Repentless, and it was just banger after banger, just bomb after bomb. They played Die by the Sword, Black Magic, Spilled the Blood, which I don't know if I've ever heard them play those songs before live. And then they ended with they went to Raining Blood, and then they went into Chemical Warfare, and they finished with Angel of Death. So yeah, excellent set from Slayer. Played a lot of great songs, and they were fantastic. all in all, a really, really great concert. And like I said, the bonus thing, I got to meet ECW legend, the Blue Meanie, just happened to be walking by.
I mean, I think it is worth pointing out as well that people are on my side about this cucumber thing. We have had comments on the Patreon about how evil a vegetable the cucumber is. So, yeah, bear that in mind, Matt Turner.
I'll say
Um,
this: I ate cucumbers, and I'm healthy as a horse, and you're sick. So you guys, hey,
I mean, that's true.
you guys figured it out on your. I'm not telling you something you don't already know, buddy.
Draw your own conclusions. Was it Not Loose, the other band, by the way?
That was it. Yeah, they were
Yeah.
really, really good. They were, yeah, they were. There was a couple other bands before them. Like I said, we finished our beers, and I was like, well, we may as well head in. So, and we didn't drink too much. Me and my lifelong best friend Jeff. We're in our 40s now, Rob, but we had a really, really good time. The weather was perfect, and yeah, that was a week. Like I said, Suicidal Tendencies, Knocked Loose. We saw their full set. Like I said, they were really good, and obviously Slayer was terrific. And then it was hosted by former WWE World Heavyweight Champion, one
I
Damian
was going to
Priest.
ask about that.
Yeah, he came on for pretty much after every band and just did an introduction to all the band, to the bands that were coming, and then huge introduction to Slayer. But it was kind of funny because he came in to introduce Slayer. Like he gives this big, like, these was the band that I listened to growing up, and this, and this. And he's like, my finisher is named the South of Heaven Chokeslam after the song. And he's like, ladies and gentlemen, Slayer. And we're like, oh man, okay, here we go. And then 20 minutes went by, and then Slayer came out. I was like, I was like, well, way to take your time. Like maybe they should have timed that a little bit better.
Absolutely.
I thought that was pretty funny because it's always when you go to a concert, the main band always takes a little bit longer to get on stage because you have your pyro and the stage setup, which was awesome. I mean, they had like flames going everywhere when Raining Blood came on. They had like fireworks coming down, like it was actually raining blood. It was terrific. The stage setup was great, but I was like, oh man, this is like 15 minutes after Knocked Loose, and I was like, all right, Damian Priest is like, here's Slayer, and everyone was like, yeah. And then about 2 or 3 minutes went by, and we were like, yeah, they're probably not coming out for a little bit, which I found pretty funny.
He got to go to WrestlePalooza. He's got places to be, Damian Priest.
It is kind of funny because of just crazy how technology is. I had All In and AEW All In and WrestlePalooza on my phone. So I did watch. In between bands, me and Jeff were watching some wrestling. Perfect timing. Couldn't have done it any better. As we're waiting for Slayer to come on, Io and Stephanie Vaquer just started. So it could not have. I couldn't have timed that any better. Then that fantastic match ended. Obviously, we'll cover that match on the Stardom Cast later this week. And then it was about 2 minutes later, then Slayer came on. I'm like, what a great way to warm me. No disrespect to Knocked Loose, who again I never heard of before. They were great. But what a better way to intro Slayer than a phenomenal match between Stephanie Vaquer and one Io Shirai.
Well, there you go. There you go. So let's jump straight into the news because, again, I don't know how long my voice is going to hold out for. And obviously, the big news is not just that other people hate cucumber, and it's not just me. It's the rather surprising news that at the show on Saturday, September the 20th in Shin-Kiba First Ring, MIRAI announced that she will be leaving Marigold following the October 13th Corrigan Hall show. Um, Obviously, as a fan and as a regular watcher of Marigold, this was very abrupt. And even in spite of some lackluster booking, I don't think we saw this coming. However, there's been a couple of comments that have been made recently from MIRAI, from Rossi, and from other wrestlers as well that sort of showcase the mindset of MIRAI. So just before I throw to you, Matt, I just want to sort of talk a bit about them. MIRAI did talk a little bit more to Tokyo Sports, where she said, and again, this quotation is courtesy of Mira Wrestling, I've said for a long time that I don't plan on continuing pro wrestling for long. And in my current wrestling career, I wanted to fulfill things I hadn't done yet or wanted to do. It's not that I'm quitting because I'm not getting results. The timing of not getting results was the timing for me to confront myself. I thought that taking action rather than just waiting would suit the path I'm currently considering. So I decided to leave Marigold. So I'm looking forward to this. Rossi Ogawa also did an interview with Kakuto Log and said that discussions over MIRAI's departure had actually begun last year, but the timing had only really worked now, and he referred to it as leaving the nest, and said that there will be a proper send off on October 13th. So it doesn't sound like there is any real animosity from either side in regards to the departure. I know that Utami as well said that she is a key player in the promotion and is going to be missed greatly. Mayu has had her say as well. Matt, it's interesting, and obviously this comes just a couple of days after Marigold announced that Naho Yamada as well will unfortunately no longer be wrestling for Marigold. She will be leaving the roster effective September the 20th. What are your initial thoughts in regard to Mirai's departure?
It's really interesting considering the fact that she's one of the ones that Rossi brought over from Stardom to start this promotion. So it's kind of a head scratcher. Not only that, it's not like, and again, we don't know how the contracts go, but most of the contracts in Japan are usually up the first quarter of the new year, like around March or April. That's usually when we see some movement, or the beginning of at the beginning of the next year. Again, if you remember, we saw Hangman Page leaving and the Young Bucks leaving, and then a couple years prior, the Good Brothers, AJ and Nakamura, leaving New Japan for WWE. So it's like we're only in September. Contract season's not up. And again, maybe she's signed, maybe she's on a handshake deal, maybe she signed a month-to-month deal, 6-month contract. That we don't know. That we don't know. So it's kind of like, why would they let her go? Because she's one of their biggest stars. With the exception of Julia, probably the second biggest star that came over. Obviously, Utami being one. We knew that Julia, once she got into Marigold, she was only going to be there to help the company start up before she would eventually go over to WWE. So we kind of knew that going in. So you're like, you're a year and a half in, not even. And one of your biggest stars that you brought over from Stardom, that in the 2 years that she was there over in Stardom, she accomplished a lot. And I'll get into that in a moment, is leaving, and leaving abruptly. Again, it's nothing that we saw coming. So you're just like, okay. And you can draw a lot of conclusions. Again, guys, we don't know. We didn't, again, we're not dirt sheet writers. We're just gonna, you can speculate all you want. But she did make mention that she doesn't really plan on wrestling forever. But at the same time, there's still a lot of gas in her tank. She's had a fantastic job over here. Marigold has had great match after great match. So you kind of wonder, like, maybe does she want to do some freelance stuff? Maybe she's looking on what Sari's doing and Unagi's doing, and maybe wants to go that route. I mean, that would be, if that's what she wants to do, then hey, great, because there's some great dream matches that you would love to see. Her and Unagi, her and Miko Wada and Sendai Girls would be great. Her and Shir Hashimoto would be a fantastic rematch from the match they had a couple years ago. So there's a lot there, and I've already had a lot of people asking me, like, would she go back to Stardom? And, again, maybe under a freelance deal, that's something that Teru Okada would definitely have to look at. He definitely would have to entertain that, because why not? I mean, my back, and again, maybe it's just for a few matches, maybe to have like a match with Sherry, kind of have God's Eye versus God's Eye, because she was in part of that faction. That's a possibility. Really, whatever she wants to do, she's going to be successful at, because she's Mirai and she's terrific. And again, the world is at her oyster. The world is her oyster. So it's going to be interesting to see what she wants to do. Rob, after I saw this news, it was literally first thing on Saturday morning. So you're kind of going into your head, kind of like, oh, is she doing freelance stuff? Well, then, maybe doing this, or, maybe she does want to go back to the Stardom, because the Stardom company is red and white hot right now. And again, look what she did in her 2 years at Stardom. Won the Cinderella tournament back-to-back years. Won the Wonder of Stardom championship against Tam Nakano, who is red belt champion. She had a really good 5 to 6 month run as Wonder of Stardom champion, and in the 2022 and 2023 5-star Grand Prix, she had a really good run there. She won the second ever Triangle Derby, and then we wish Sherry and Ami sorry, and they made it to the finals of the first Triangle Derby before they lost the prominence. So Mirai had, even though she was only there 2 years in Stardom, had a really great run. So is that a possibility? It's professional wrestling. I don't rule anything out. But after I thought about it, Rob, and again, this is before Rossi released those comments in Mirai as well. After I thought about it later on Saturday, I thought, what's the possibility of Rossi letting her out of her contract? Again, if the contract is valid until next year, which again, we don't know. And the reason why is because she's going to WWE. And if you think about it, the storyline that's going on right now in WWE would be perfect for Mirai. And again, we're going to cover this over on the Stardom cast. But Rob, I don't know if you saw what happened on Monday Night Raw, but we finally got the turn of Asuka and Kairi turning on Io. Eventually, I think what is going to happen, because if you look at Kairi, Kairi did not want to turn on Io. It was almost she was bullied from Asuka. So I think the story, we may mention this both off and on air before. I think the storyline is eventually Kairi goes to Io and snaps on Asuka. Well, then Asuka needs somebody to go after Kairi and Io. And I think Mirai would be the perfect partner for her, because Mirai is very good at telling stories in the ring. She's very good at crowd psychology. She's a hard hitter, and she has really, really like a colorful personality and multiple color, like the hair scheme, which obviously fits Asuka. I think Mirai and Asuka together as a tag team, I think would be fantastic. So again, that's what's kind of like my first thoughts after a few hours of thinking about it. It's like, well, maybe she's under contract with WWE. Said, hey, Rossi, look, you know, we would like to have Mariah as part of the storyline going on, because eventually Asuka needs the team with somebody to go after Kyrie and Io. Again, that's the way that it's going, and that's the way that it looks like it's going. So I don't know, Rob. I don't know where it's going. My main thing is I just, whatever Mariah's going to do, whether she's going to stay in wrestling for a little bit, freelancing, maybe sign with another Joshi company, maybe come over here to the States, and sign with a WWE or an AEW or TNA, again, and maybe if the offer is there. She's talented enough to do anything that she wants. My main thing is I just want her to be happy and obviously healthy. And again, you can speculate all you want what she's, and I know I'm going back to what I said before. Whatever she's going to do, she's going to be successful, because she is a world class next level wrestler. But again, I'm glad we're having this forum here, buddy, because we didn't get a chance to really talk about it this weekend. What do you think? What do you think about all this?
It's interesting because obviously we had, I think it was Colin asked if we were going to do sort of a breaking news audio thing. And I wanted just to see how everything played out before we did. Because the timing is very weird. And not just because it's come out of nowhere, but also because it's 2 weeks out from your biggest show of the year in Sumo Hall. And both me and you had mentioned it's very weird that Mirai does not have a big match heading into Ryogoku. So I did what nobody should ever do and did a deep dive onto social media. And there is a lot of people who think this is a work. There is a lot of people, because they've announced that her final match is going to be Mirai Saku versus Darkness Revolution. Now, a lot of people have said, what if this is a work and this is a way of Mirai just joining the Darkness Revolution? Now, I don't think so, personally. I'd love it if that's the case, because I don't want to see Mirai leave. I think Mirai is exactly where she needs to be. Obviously, we don't know her personal circumstances, and as you've already touched on, she says she doesn't want to do this, forever. And obviously, she's got other personal goals. She wants to wrestle overseas, which is, fair enough. Absolutely. She wants to explore other avenues while she can, and, more power to her. I completely agree with that. You need to be ambitious, and you need to make the most of the time that you've got. Absolutely, completely understand that. The only other place, though, that I can see her fitting in, because yes, I can see where you're coming from with the Asuka, Kyrie, and Io storyline. But after that storyline, I don't see a place for Mirai in WWE. Whereas with Julia, whereas with Io, whereas with Kyrie, and whereas with Asuka, there is a certain star power, a certain star quality, a certain charisma. Mirai has certainly improved, especially in a time in Marigold. This, as we've mentioned countless times, this breakup between, between Stardom and Marigold has benefited, perhaps other than Mai Sakurai, it's benefited Mirai the most in terms of character. Until recently, obviously, the booking has been questionable, but, knowing that she's probably leaving explains why at least this Dreamstar Grand Prix hasn't seen her excel in the way that we knew she would. But I don't see Mirai in the same bracket as a Julia, as a Mayu, as a Io, as a Kyrie, as an Asuka. And I think to succeed on that roster, you need to have something other than just being a good in-ring competitor. Even Io, who is phenomenal, it took her a while to get over in front of a US audience. Um, Obviously, the big thing is, does she go back to Stardom? It will be an interesting one because it would feel for her like a step in. Well, would it feel? Wouldn't it feel like a step backwards almost?
I don't think
Like
so. I don't think so. Because look at, I mean, what is she? How many people complain to us on a weekly basis that they're, especially the Mirai fans, that they're not doing anything with her? That there
but
she's
then
just there to put she's just there to put people over. What if you put her in her storyline where like she comes back and Sherry's like, "Oh, come back to God's Eye," and she's just like, "There, you guys clearly moved on without me. There's 400 people there." Then maybe what I would do, and I was kind of just fantasy booking this just today, that maybe you have a match with Shuri. You know, if once Shuri regains the IWGP Joshi Championship, which we think that's the storyline they're going with her and Suri, and then have Mirai, you know, after the match, have Sherry like, just come back. And she's just like, no, you clearly moved on without me. Then I would have Mirai wrestle every single member in God's Eye. Tomoka Inaba, an Ami Sori, a Rana Yugami. It's a different stardom than it was a year ago, which is crazy to say. And the business is booming. Like this show in Cork and Hall coming up. And I know this isn't the Stardom cast, guys. I apologize. This show coming up in Cork and Hall very well will break the record again, Rob. They added standing room tickets only, and there's like a dozen tickets left. So
mhm.
it's like it's a different. Even though she's like, well, I was just here a year and a half ago. It's a different Stardom. Saya Kamatani's a heel. There's no more Wedo Tai. Like, sorry, you know, Mirai versus Suri match. That, I mean, who doesn't want to see that? They're doing stuff with Sendai Girls. So who want to see Mirai do some stuff with Sendai Girls? There's a lot of different things that she can do, you know? I mean, so do I think it's a step back in the right direction? I see your point there, but no, not really, because it's not like she's never won any of these championships. And we thought that she was going to be the first United National Champion. And then when she didn't win, like, oh, she'll get there. And we were waiting, like, oh, she's definitely beating my Sakurai and the Dream Star. It's going to set up for the big match in Sumo Hall. And then it never happened. And you're right, partner. We were saying last week, like, she doesn't have any clear direction. And they were kind of like half jokingly, like, what if she just on the undercard? And then we're like, oh boy, we were kind of, and we didn't mean to be, obviously, we're just trying to be, you know, humorous and add some humor into the podcast, folks. But we're like, yeah, she's really not on that card now. Like, wow, like we were just kind of being funny. We didn't know anything, but like, wow, she's not really on that card. So it's like, I see your point. I don't think it's a step in a step back, but maybe I think what's best for her is to do freelance work. If she wants to wrestle in the United States, then let her do some shots in the United States. You look at GCW, they love booking the Joshi. They love Maki Ito and Miyu Yamashita. They brought in Utami in a couple years ago. Let her do some shots over there. You know what I mean? Let her maybe get on some Ring of Honor stuff. Let her get on maybe some AEW stuff, you know, here or there, just on kind of a one-time deal. Let her, again, work the Sendai Girls. Let her, correct me if I'm wrong, part. Didn't she come from Tokyo Joshi Pro?
She did, yeah. She
Let her
started in
do
Tokyo Joshi Pro.
let her do a couple shots over there. Be like a homecoming for her. You know, there's a Oz Academy. I mean, there's so much great Joshi that is out there that she can do. And I mean, again, who wouldn't want to see Mirai spread her wings a little bit more and wrestle the Mika Wadas, wrestle, you know, a Miyu Yamashita, wrestle a Maki Ito, wrestle a Mizuki. I mean, there is a lot of great stuff for her to an Aquino over at Oz Academy. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff for her to do. So it's just like, you know, you kind of scratch your head and just like, oh, geez, you know, she kind of helped build this promotion. You know, her and Utami really helped build this promotion within the you know, obviously the Mikoanos and the Julias and the Bozillas and whatnot, but they were kind of the two backbones of this promotion the first 7-8 months. And then kind of just out of nowhere, she's gone. You know, so it is a little weird, but if you're asking me what I would like to see, just let her be freelance. And then this way be like, ooh, you know, she's wrestling on a Sendai Girl show, or she's wrestling on an Oz Academy show, or she's wrestling, you know, Tokyo Joshi Pro, like I said before. So the world is at her oyster, but would I love to see her do a couple shots in Stardom? Absolutely, because it really is a different company than it was when she left. And again, it was only a year and a half ago.
Okay. You've said obviously you don't see it as a backward step going to Stardom. And, initially I was thinking more as a case of, well, I've already been there, retreading old ground, so to speak. Obviously, Stardom and Marigold are not comparable, as we've said multiple times on this podcast. However, you just brought up, you wanted to go back. Well, you'd like her to go back, and Saya Kamatani's heel now. There's no more Aweda Tai, and I agree. But the problem that Mirai has had in Marigold, who have a significantly thinner roster than Stardom, is breaking through that glass ceiling. Alongside Nutami, Victoria Yuzuki has now surpassed it. Mayu Iwatani, Miko Aono, Mai Sakurai. Are you telling me that Mirai is going to get a red belt or a white belt ahead of Azumi, Natsupoi, Sioriano? She's going to dethrone Saya Kamaton. She's going to dethrone Starlight Kid. And that's without all these other people that Stardom are trying to build at the moment. I feel like Mirai, if she went back to Stardom, I don't feel like she's going to be at the top of this card. I feel like she's going to have great matches because Mirai is capable of great matches. But, Momo Watanabe, for God's sake, we've just heated Momo Watanabe back up. She's just won the 5-star Grand Prix. I'm sorry. We've just heated her back up after coming back from this injury. I don't see Mirai coming up and shaking up the order of Stardom. I think she's a great hand, but I don't think Stardom is the right move for her.
Well, go ahead.
Do I think that this is a work? No, I think she probably is leaving. And again, it is worth noting or echoing what Matt said. We don't know anything that's gone on backstage or anything like that. We don't know if there's been an argument or anything. The only thing we can surmise is that from the interviews, everything seems fairly cordial. But again, we don't know. But a fresh coat of paint again for Mirai, who has now, as I mentioned, fallen behind Victoria Yuzuki, fallen behind Miko Aono. Turning a heel might be a way of giving her that extra life. However, if that's not the case, I think the best thing to do is to freelance around Japan. Like we've seen Hazuki do it. Hazuki's been doing great stuff around the independent scene. Even today, has had a great match alongside Koguma against Bob Momo Banana. We've seen Unagi make a very successful career out of freelancing. And the thing is, when you are freelancing, you're in control of your own schedule and things like that. And if Mariah has other things, and again, she might well want to go and start a family. That is something that we need to take into account. There are personal goals as well as wrestling goals. The only thing that I would sort of end on in terms of that is that Mariah always struck me as someone who would want to be the top champion somewhere. And it felt very much like sort of the redemption arc was always going to happen in Marigold. Now, for this to sort of just come out of nowhere seems very, very strange. But again, it's almost too strange for this to be a work. Now, again, if we are wrong and it turns out to be a work and Mirai turns out to be the brand new leader of Darkness Revolution, just add it up to another one of our dreadful, dreadful predictions or takes on wrestling. But at the moment, if you are asking me now at 8:45 on the 23rd of September, I'm saying I just feel like she's going to go freelance and spread her wings in other promotions across Japan. It's a shame. It's a massive shame. But then again, I know that there are Mirai fans who have been extremely frustrated with her booking. Especially since her and Mai Sakurai dropped the Twin Star belts. But then again, Rossi has done an interview and said that actually talks have taken place over Mirai's contract since last year, since 2024. Don't you think that's a very strange? Like Mirai is one of the initial people to go to Marigold in May of 2024, well, in April 2024. And she is already thinking of jumping ship at the end of that same year. So it's interesting. I wonder what's gone on there.
That is wild. And considering, again, he said it was the end of last year, and it's not, it's crazy to say, Rob, we're almost 9 months into this year. Like, it's going to be October in like a week and a half. It's crazy. So it's not like, oh, yeah, she's thinking about leaving last year, and it's March. Like, this has been going on from what Rossi's saying about 10 months. But yeah, you're right. It's just like in your very first year of existence, like I jumped Stardom, a company that, and again, look at her resume. Her resume, she's done everything other than win the 5-star Grand Prix, win the Goddess tournament, and win the red belt. I mean, what a great run in 2 years. And it was positioned there to do great things, and she did do great things. I mean, in the 2020, her very first 5-star Grand Prix, she defeated the eventual winner Julia and Mayu, like in her very first 5-star Grand Prix. That's pretty damn good, partner, for your first 5-star. But yeah, that's, now that you bring it up, I didn't even look at it like that. It's just like, okay, we're 6 months into this and I'm thinking about leaving. Yeah, you're and again, Rob, maybe you're right. Maybe she's leaving for the best reason possible. She wants to start a family. And you can't begrudge anybody for that, because that is the best. I mean, if that's your next step in life, there's nothing better, than being a parent. It really, really isn't, if that's it, if that's what she wants. And that's, you're absolutely right. I didn't even think about that until you mentioned it. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe she, towards the end of last year, she fell in love, and with her partner, she said, again, obviously we don't know this, we don't know her personal life, and that's not us. And she said, you know what, they had a serious conversation, like, hey, once you're done with this wrestling, let's start a family. Is that possible? Sure. You see it all the time in women's sports, like with the WNBA and stuff like that. So I mean, you look at Becky Lynch a couple years ago, starting a family with Seth Rollins, and then you look at with Naomi. I mean, she's a few months pregnant with her, and
Kylie Ray's just announced that she's pregnant again on Twitter as well.
yeah, and again, folks, that's fantastic. There are things, believe it or not, that I'm going to say that's more important than wrestling, and family definitely is the number one thing. And if that's the route she's going, great. But as far as, if you're asking me what I didn't even, the fact that you were a brave enough man, Rob Goodwin, to do a deep dive on social media, God bless you, good sir, God bless you. But I didn't even hear that this whole thing's a work, which, again, I mean, if you're asking me on a scale of 1 to 10, is it a work? I'm going to say a 1, which, again, if we're wrong, at least we're consistent this year when it comes to
Absolutely.
Marigold
Hold our
predictions.
hands
But
up.
yeah, exactly. But I think that I'm going to say, if you're asking me, Matt, what do you think this is? What are you putting your chips on? I think she's going to go freelance.
I mean, it could just be a case of there's too much cucumber in the in catering in Marigold. That
Or
could
not,
literally be what it is,
or
or
not
or
enough.
not enough.
Or not enough. Yeah, it's either one or the other, folks. It's either one or the other.
Absolutely. I'm sure more details will eventually come to light about it. But obviously, we'll cover that as this continues. And we've got the October 13th Corrigan Hall show coming up with Mirai's send off or not send off, depending on what you believe. Either way, I just hope that she's happy and she's doing what's best for her, because again, she's always seemed so lovely and so genuine and so happy in everything that she does. And I remember doing the first episode of the Marigold Standard with you when we did the live version of Marigold Fields Forever. And I think the first thing we said was, "Oh my God, look how happy Mirai is." Um, and it would be a shame if obviously she's not feeling that way backstage. Again, we don't know. So whatever she does, I hope that she is going to be happy doing that. And yeah, obviously we'll know more as the October 13th Korakuen comes. Again, just 2 weeks before Ryogoku, I feel like there's something there. That's the only thing I think that gives any credence to the idea that this might be a work. But again, I'm with you, partner. I think maximum I'd give it a 2 or 3, and that's only because it's pro wrestling. And I do just want to sort of end this by talking about Naho Yamada, because obviously, the Mirai departure announcement has sort of overshadowed Naho Yamada's, which is unfortunate. But Naho Yamada's been out since February with a ruptured ACL, and has unfortunately taken the decision to withdraw from the roster effective September 20th. Nothing else has been said by that. I'd noticed, or someone had pointed out, I can't remember who it was on social media actually that pointed it out, but now Yamada doesn't have Twitter anymore. So she hasn't released anything or anything like that. So, again, hopefully she is recovering well. And again, the same as Mirai, whatever those next steps are for Naho Yamada, I hope that she's happy, because again, there are things outside of pro wrestling, and if she pops up in another company, I know that me and you are going to be absolutely over the moon, because we are huge Naho Yamada fans. If she chooses to do something else in her life and she approaches it with a tenth of the passion that she approaches those entrances with, then she's going to be incredible at whatever she does. So again, it's a real shame that we're not going to see Naho Yamada anymore, but on the flip side, I hope that whatever it is she does, she excels in, Matt.
Yeah, and again, it was only about a month or so removed from Ryoko Sakamura doing the same thing, rehabbing an injury, and then she's removed from the
Yeah.
roster. So it very well can be, well, maybe when you're rehabbing from some of these injuries, sometimes the rehab doesn't go as well as you like, or it's just like, what if? And then you kind of get in your own head where it's just like, geez, this is taking me 5 months, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, 9 months to rehab. And what's to say that I come back and in a month or two, I'm in the same situation? So that could very well be a possibility of what had happened, where it's just like, I just don't want to keep doing this and getting hurt, because wrestling is a very tough sport, folks. Again, that's why I always say we need to respect every single professional wrestler, because they go out there each and every night and they're putting their bodies on the line for our entertainment. So it can be nicer to those wrestlers over there on social media. So, just don't bag on them just because, you want to be a keyboard warrior. Professional wrestling, it's a tough, tough sport. So that's, you got to think about, maybe, again, we don't know, maybe that was a possibility where it's just the rehab wasn't going as well as she'd like, or it was just, she just thought, you know what, maybe I want to take a step back from this, and asked her to be removed from the Marigold roster, because they are, they're doing 2 to 3 shows a week. So maybe it's like, if she does go freelance, like, maybe I'll do a show a month, maybe I'll do a show a week. I can go here, I can go there. If somebody asks me for a show, I could turn down the booking, where, if you're under a contract with a Marigold or a Stardom or WWE, like, that's your job. You can't just say like, hey, Rob, with your job and my job, you're supposed to start work at 8 o'clock on Wednesday morning. Like, I just don't feel like it. If you're freelance, you can do that. You can pick and choose your booking. So, that's a possibility. Obviously, we love to see more of Naho Yamada, because the handful of matches that she had in Marigold, we were massive fans of her. And I always made mention how it was always great starting the show off with her, because she'd come in singing. We'd always say we have no idea what she's saying, because we speak very, very little Japanese. But all I know is it's like, I'm enjoying the beat. The crowd's really into it. Whatever she's singing her heart into. And then the bell rings, and she was having really great matches. So we were excited that for her to come back from her injury. Obviously, if she does, it won't be under a Marigold ring, at least not for now. Can things change? Sure, absolutely. But whatever she's doing, we wish her the best. And she's another one very much like MIRAI, that we hope that she winds up doing some freelance work, because I think like her versus like a Bob Moma Banana match, I think would be absolutely terrific. Who wouldn't want to see that? But yeah, we wish her nothing but the best.
Just final thing, just going back to Mariah for one moment before I take my leave from the podcast, just simply because it's something that's come into my head. There was sort of a couple of people as well that mentioned that maybe, she's gone from Stardom to Marigold to follow Rossi. In fact, when we did our interview with Mariah, many, many months ago, the reason she said that she jumped from Stardom to Marigold was to be under the tutelage of Rossi. Do you think it's gotten to a point now where she's like, right, okay, I've learned what I need to learn. I want to do it on my own now. Do you think there could be a little bit of that in there?
Absolutely, buddy. Really good insight, buddy. Good. Even though you're not feeling good, you're thinking good. You're thinking good. It's all that cucumber talk. That's it's taken off of your brain power. That's a good. Maybe it's just like, okay, I learned a lot from him. Let me go and do this on my own, and let me see what I can do. Because is it a possibility that she goes freelance 5, 6, 7, 8 months, and then she goes back to a Marigold? Sure, it's a really good possibility. Or she does a shot for Marigold every now and again, like we see with Flying Penguin, and whatnot. Sure. I mean, it's pro wrestling, and we've seen that you never burn a bridge in pro wrestling, because you never know what might happen. So that's a really good insight, partner. Really good thinking there. Again, she sat under that learning tree for 2 years under Stardom, and then a year and a half here with Marigold, and then it was just like, okay, let me try to apply this trait, somewhere else. Because again, the freelance work, instead of something else you have to think about. Me and Andy Header talk about this both off air and on air. If you're working for a company, you're contracted through a company, your merchandise, because mostly they'll produce the merchandise or the meet and greets and the photographs and the autographs, you get a certain percentage, whether it's 10%, 20%. And again, we don't know. But if Marai's doing her own freelance work, and then she's producing her own 8x10s, and she's producing her own t-shirts and her own merch, she keeps 100% of that. So that's something else you have to think about. It's like, well, I'm only getting, again, I don't know, I'm only getting 15% of the merch. But what if I produce my own stuff, and then she's making that back? We saw with Unagi not that long ago. She did like an Instagram live thing, and she was just selling her photos on, through Instagram live, and like personalizing them, someone was telling me she made like over 1,000,000 yen in like 3 hours. So, and again, that's all profit for her because that's all stuff that she's producing. So that's another thing that you have to take into consideration as well, Rob. There's no buffer. That's all hers because she is freelance. She is her own boss. She is MIRAI LLC. Again, I don't know if that's their corporation, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean? She's her own 1099 for tax. I don't know what the tax brackets are like over in Japan, but I'm just saying from an accounting major over here, it's the only stuff I remember. I'm sales, damn it. But I mean, yeah, that's something too you have to take into consideration. So yeah, again, we'll see where she lands. It'd be really interesting last few months at the end of the year for MIRAI.
All right. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's me just about done. Apologies that I couldn't last the full podcast, but my voice is already breaking, as you can probably hear. So I think it's probably best I go. I'll hopefully, he says, fingers crossed, be back to somewhere near full fitness for the Stardom cast when we record on Thursday. But again, it does depend on how I'm feeling. I should be all right for the news at the very, very least, but we'll see and we'll keep you updated anyway. So, Matt, it's been a pleasure, good sir, as always. Make sure to eat your cucumber, and I'll see you later.
Hold on, before you go, but here it is. Rob's giving me the big hot tag. Boom. Ricky to
There you
Robert. Here
go.
we go. All right, buddy.
There
Rest
you
up.
go.
I'll touch base with you later, my friend.
All right. See you soon, brother.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, folks, as Rob goes into gets a little R&R, some rest and relaxation, and it's just going to be me steering the ship for these last handful of minutes. The last bit of news I do want to talk about is Sendai Girls announced the participants for their Jaja Uma 2025 junior tournament. Rita Sato will be representing Marigold. So great on Sendai Girls getting Rita Sato in this tournament. This is a really good opportunity for Rhea Sato. She really shined out the first half of this year and had a great tournament in the Dreamstar Grand Prix. Obviously, didn't pick up a lot of wins and a lot of points, but for her first tournament, had a lot of great matches, especially that 15-minute time limit draw she had with Victoria Zuki. So this is just going to be another great opportunity for Rhea Sato to show what that she can do. And also from the Stardom side of it, we have Emma Mashima and Rian going to be in this tournament as well. So it'll be interesting to see as we get into the later rounds of the brackets if we may see some Marigold versus Stardom in Sendai Girls. So really excellent stuff. And obviously myself and Indy Header will be covering that entire tournament over on Talk Joshi. So getting folks, you have the Stardom cast, obviously the Marigold Standard, which you're listening to, and we thank you. And then Talk Joshi, where myself and Andy Header cover a lot of the other Joshi promotions going on over there in Japan. And Sendai Girls, it seems to be something that we cover pretty much each and every show. So interesting thing. There are a lot of really great names in that tournament. Folks, let's get into the one show that we are going to cover. And this show took place on the 20th of September. Shin-Kiba first ring, as I pull up the notes here that Rob had graciously sent me. And this is the very first night of the Battleheart tour. And folks, our attendance notes. Now, it was noted, speaking of Rhea Sato, that Rhea Sato did have this is her first match back in action from having COVID-19 after missing the Dreamstar final. The attendance notes inside Shin-Kiba first ring in Tokyo was 275 people. This is the 13th time the company has run the venue, and it's only slightly 3%, which 285 people at the last show. The number is higher than the company's average. The company's average is 267. So 275, so 8 more people than the company average. So again, a really solid number for Marigold. Quick results are as follows. We start off with an entertaining three-way with Yuka Yamazaki defeating Nao Ishikawa and Megaton when Yuka forces Megaton to tap out with the rear naked choke. Singles match number 2, the return of Arena Yamiyaka, defeating Hummingbird with a bridging fisherman suplex, 6 minutes and 34 seconds. We go to the third match of this show. Misa Matsui picking up a win over one Kazuna Tanaka, forcing the young Kazuna Tanaka to tap out via the stretch muffler in 7 minutes and 1 second. 6-person tag action at its finest. Kokiyamare Manami Yuki defeating Darkness Revolution Army of Chiaki, Nagisa Nozaki, and Rhea Sato. I believe Rob did miss a name here on this. It was Manami Yuki, Chikagoto, and Kokiyamare He has it right here. I read it wrong. Chikagoto, Kokiyamare, and Manami Yuki defeating Darkness Revolution Army of Chiaki, Nagisa Nozaki, and Ria Sato when Chikagoto hits the GCS, the Goto chokeslam, pinning Ria Sato 10 minutes and 27 seconds. Semi-main event, and this is a must-see match. This was a solid show. These two matches, folks, are absolutely must-see. Tag team match, Utami Hayashishita and Mirai took on the team of Miku Ano and Mai Sakurai, and in a 15-minute time limit draw. This was terrific. A really, really great match. And that followed up with another great match in the main event. The main event saw the team of Victoria Yuzuki and Sari Yamaoka defeating Mayu Iwatani and Kamomo Manami when Victoria Yuzuki hits the victory shooting splash onto Kamomo Manami 10 minutes and 21 seconds. Just a few post-show notes, and then I'll hit the room, and then I'll go back and kind of just break down all 6 of these matches. After their defeat of Darkness Revolution Army, Chikagoto proposed that her and Koki Amare reform the Twin Towers. Koki agreed, and Koki and Chikagoto have announced that they are looking to dethrone Magenta to win the Twin Star Championship. Said this a few times over the last month or so. I would love to see Koki and Chikagoto reform their tag team and maybe make a run at Magenta for the Twin Star Tag Team Championships. That'd be a great match to put on somewhere in the middle of the card at Grand Destiny coming up in just about 1 month's time. So hopefully that's the way they're going. That would make sense. Magenta's great. Chikagoto has a lot of steam on her, and Koki Amare is a big, big star. As we mentioned before, MIRAI announced following her tag team match that she'll be leaving Marigold on October 13th, and her final match with the promotion will be Hirome Sakurai taking on Nagisa Nozaki and Chiaki. Obviously, we have seen that pairing quite a bit in the first year or so of Marigold, and they've always had great matches. So a really great send-off for her. Following the main event, Sari Yamaoka challenged Mayu Iwatani for the Superfly Championship, and that match will take place in Cork and Hall on October the 13th. So that Cork and Hall show coming up in about 3 weeks' time is really starting to shape up to be a terrific card. And again, that is the last Cork and Hall show before Grand Destiny. So excellent stuff. And if you remember, Sari Yamaoka did pin Mayu Iwatani clean in the middle of the ring on the opening night. Basically, it was show number 2, but night 1 of the Dream Star Grand Prix. So that's basically how Sari Yamaoka was able to earn said title shot. Folks, those are all the notes. Let's get into breakdown of all 6 of these matches. We get match number 1, 3-way dance, Yuka Yamazaki, Nao Ishikawa, and Megaton. We get a fast start with Yuka and Nao Ishikawa. Really, really great stuff. They're showing some great wrestling, some great Superfly style, junior style professional wrestling. And then Megaton, she comes in with her usual comedy, which really gets a great reaction. And then they Nao and Yuka eventually pitch Megaton out of the ring. Nao and Yuka, they have a great form exchange that Megaton stops. She takes advantage of with a double bulldog. I really like that. Nao is able to hit a sit-out spine buster to Yuka for a 2 count. Megaton comes in. She gets a little advantage. She goes for the Megaton press. Yuka rolls out of the way of the Megaton press and then locks in basically a variation of the crossface chicken wing. She locked in like the rear naked choke and tried to go for the chicken wing. But again, as we know, folks, Megaton's gimmick is she taps out really fast. This is a really fun opener. Megaton, her parts in this match I thought were perfectly timed. She had the comedic value in. Ultimately, though, this was a great match with Nao Ishikawa and Yuka, which is some fun comedy of Megaton sprinkled in 3.25 stars. Match number 2 saw the return of Arina Yamayaka taking on Hummingbird. This was fantastic. Fast start between the two to start. Great arm drags back and forth. I really like that. Arina hits a top rope single leg kick, very Rob Van Dam style. Really enjoyed that. Hummingbird is able to come back with some submissions, some arm style submissions. I really like that. Hummingbird explodes with some really great striking offense. Floors Arena down. Hummingbird then hits a running basement drop kick. That scored her a 2 count. Arena is able to come back with some more innovative strikes, and she hits a high cross body for a 2 count on Hummingbird. Then Hummingbird is able to slow Arena down. She does really great stuff where it looks like she's going like for a pump handle slam. Like she gets like a wrist clutch, and then she rolls up Arena into basically a modified O'Connor roll. I really like that, and I really bid on the finish. I was like, I don't know if I've ever seen that variation done before. This was a really great spot. Hummingbird ever improving. Great stuff. That scored Hummingbird a 2.9 count. Arena comes back with the jumping Shining Wizard and the reverse DDT. That scored Arena a 2 count. And then she hits a Northern Light suplex for the 3 count, 6 minutes and 34 seconds, 3.5 stars. That was a really, really great match between two fantastic wrestlers. And these two, to my knowledge, have never had a singles match. And they had instant chemistry. I think if this goes 9-10 minutes, this is probably closer to the 4-star mark. I thought this was really, really good. Match number 3, Misa Matsui and Kazuna Tanaka. Kazuna Tanaka is trying to get out of the blocks early in this match with the strikes. Misa, being ever so dastardly, slows Tanaka down by using the headlock, grinding Tanaka down, and then she starts to target Kazuna Tanaka's back and then the knee. So obviously she's trying to get to the knee, but she uses that taped up back from Tanaka to basically bridge into that knee. So I really like that heel tactic there, as the crowd, like 2 or 3 minutes in, is really rallying behind one Kazuna Tanaka. Kazuna Tanaka comes back with some strikes. She's able to counter some offensive maneuvers from Misa Matsui into the Fujiwara armbar. Really like that. Misa Matsui, she comes back with a drop kick and a sliding splash. That scores her a 2 count. Then Kazuna Tanaka comes back with a big suplex and a flying knee strike. Again, very much like Misa Matsui's flying knee strike, like that Kenta Baisoko style knee. I thought that was great. That scored her a 2 count. Kazuna Tanaka has Misa Matsui right where she wants her. She goes for the cross arm breaker, also known as a Japanese arm bar. But Misa Matsui is able to take advantage of the injured knee that she was working on earlier, and is able to counter the Japanese armbar into the stretch muffler, forcing Kazuna Tanaka to tap. As a 3.5 stars, I thought this was really good. I just thought the finish kind of came out of nowhere. I was looking for a little bit more of a build-up with these two. 7 minutes and 1 second. I wish this would have went 9 or 10 minutes, because these two are fantastic. I think they have a better match in them, but still, I thought this was really good. I really like the submission exchanges. I really like how Misa Matsui basically showed just how smart of a wrestler she is, able to counter that cross arm breaker into the stretch muffler. Again, because she was working on that knee, she was working on that knee early on in the early parts of that match. Match number 4, Darkness Revolution, Rhea Saito, Nagisa Nozaki, and Chiaki taking on Manami Yuki, Chika Goto, and Koki Amare. The bell rings and we got a wild brawl. This is Darkness Revolution right to a T. This is what you want. It's the only match on these 6 matches. This is the only match that had the psychology, which I really liked. We get some floor fights. Eventually, the match goes back into the ring. We get some heat on Manami Yuki, Rhea, Nagisa, and Chiaki do a great job cutting the ring off. Eventually, Koki Amare, she comes in. She makes the save. Chika Goto, she comes in for the first save. Boots and forearms to all. Looks like that we're going to get Chika Goto really rallying behind her team. But eventually, Nagisa Nozaki, she cuts off Chika Goto. Nagisa and Chika Goto have really good chemistry. Great exchanges back and forth. Nagisa hits the question mark kick. Eventually, Koki Amare, she comes in to save her former and now maybe future, hopefully, tag partner. She comes in with, by she, I mean Koki, comes in with boots, forearms, excellent stuff there. And as we're getting towards the finish of this match, we see some great teamwork with Chika Goto and Koki Amare. So you can see kind of where this is going and where you want it to go. You know, dueling boots, great teamwork between these two former tag partners. I really, really like that. Rhea is able to outmaneuver Chika Goto here towards the end. She hits the double underhook, basically bridging Tiger Suplex, the Rhea slide, also known as the Marufuji slide for you pro wrestling no fans. That scores her a 2 count. However, we do get Koki Amare comes in for the save. We get some more teamwork with Goto and Koki Amare, and that opens up the door for Chika Goto to hit the GCS, the Goto chokeslam, onto Rhea Saito for the 3 count. 3.5 stars, a really great match, easy story to tell, but this was all about building back up the team of Goto and Koki Amare, and I'm really liking where they're going with this. I think those two, again, if they're going to go with Goto and Koki Amare versus Magenta, I think you need to do it in Ryogoko. I think you need to crown them champions and give them their big moment in Sumo Hall on what may be the most attended show in Marigold short history. So I really like the booking here. It makes perfect sense. I like the way they're going. This match got me really excited for the potential reunion of Chika Goto and Koki Amare. Semi-main event, folks, pro wrestling, tag team wrestling, doesn't get much better than this. This was fantastic. Miko Ano, Mei Sakurai taking on Utami Hayashishita and Victoria Zuki. This match, Mirai. Excuse me. It was Utami Hayashishita and Mirai. Again, as great as Mai Sakurai was in this match, as great as Mirai was in this match is all about building up to that big main event match for the red belt, the Crimson Red Belt, coming up in Sumo Hall in about 1 month's time. Miko Ano and Utami Hayashishita. And they gave us quite a bit with Miko Ano and Utami. Really great stuff. Big lockup between Ano and Utami to start. Eventually, they tag out. We get some great exchanges with Mirai and Mai Sakurai. Obviously, these two have been on opposite ends of the ring and in the same corner as well. Again, Mirai and Mai Sakurai were the first ever Twin Star champions, and they won the first ever Twin Star Cup. So a lot of great history with Mirai and Mai Sakurai. Really enjoyed that. Utami comes in. She comes in, she cleans house. She hits a torture rack bomb onto Mai Sakurai. That scores her a 2 count. Utami and Mai Sakurai have a forearm exchange. And again, obviously, this match is about building Miko Ano and Utami Hayashishita up. But they whenever they put this match together, they did a great job of taking advantage of the fact that you have Utami, your red belt champion, and Mai Sakurai, your white belt champion, in the same match on opposite ends. So you kind of had your two big stars in this match, really duking it out. And the little bit we got, really fantastic stuff. And again, if you remember, they were in the finals together last year at the very first ever Dream Star Grand Prix with Utami Hayashishita defeating one Mai Sakurai. So these two have some low-key chemistry. Depending on who comes out of Sumo Hall as a respective champion, I would love to see these two work a program. Whether it's Utami goes for the white belt or Mai Sakurai goes for the red belt, or they both lose their championships, and then it's just a matter of pride between the two. I would love to see a big program with Utami and Mai Sakurai because they really, really click. If you remember, they did win their respective championships on the same show back at First Stream earlier this year. So really excellent stuff there. We go back to Utami and Miko Ano, and this is great. Miko Ano gets the advantage with the kick. She uses the Shibata style drop kick. Eventually, Utami, she comes back, hits the air raid crash, and then we get a lariat off between the two, where they're both just running into each other with lariats, and then they're running off the ropes, catching each other with lariats. Really good, great stuff there. Eventually, though, the two of them absolutely exhaust each other. We go back to tags with Mirai and Mai Sakurai. They go back to a forearm exchange with Mirai getting the better of the forearm exchange. Mai Sakurai getting the better of the forearm exchange. Sakurai goes to the top rope. It looks like she's going to hit the Goodwin elbow drop, but Mirai stops her. Mirai hits an overhead top rope belly-to-belly superplex. Excellent stuff there. Miko Ano comes in with a head kick to Mirai. That opens up the door for Mai Sakurai to hit the STK and the STK and locking in the STF to Mirai. Tommy comes in for the save. We get the waterfall finishes. Eventually, we get a big brawl out with Mai Sakurai and Mirai as the timekeeper rings the bell at 15 minutes. Fantastic match, highlighting all four wrestlers in a great way. I had this at 4.25 stars. And again, folks, an absolute must see. Again, this whole show was great. Only 6 matches. The show was less than 2 hours. I would watch the whole thing, but if you're strapped for time, definitely make this match one to watch. And again, folks, how do you follow up a great match with another great match? Again, a really solid show from Marigold as always, but ending with 2 absolute bangers. We go to the main event, Sarah Yamaoka and Victoria Zuki taking on Mayu Iwatani and Kamomo Minami. I was like, oh, okay, Victoria Zuki, obviously somebody they're positioning to be a big star, made it to the finals of the Dream Star. Sarah Yamaoka did defeat Mayu, handing Mayu her first loss in Marigold. And then at the end, you have Mayu and Kamomo Minami. I was like, interesting that it's not Mirai or Mai Sakurai, it's Utami, it's Kamomo Minami, Mayu Iwatani's partner. So, okay, let's see how this is going to work out. This match starts off with Sarah Yamaoka and Kamomo Minami having really beginning. Sarah gets the early advantage. Mayu comes in, helps out Kamomo Minami. Very stars-like teamwork. Very much Peach Rock-like teamwork. Like the usual great Mayu teamwork. Just knowing where to be, what to do, getting the 2-on-1 advantage. So excellent stuff with Mayu and Kamomo Minami. Really great tag team chemistry right out the jump. Like, wouldn't mind seeing Kamomo Minami and Mayu team up more. And they're only about 2 minutes in. That's what I'm thinking, because I thought that was great. We get some fantastic exchanges, next level stuff with Sarah Yamaoka and Mayu. Excellent stuff there. Mayu gets the better of Sari, sends Sari in the turnbuckle. Sari is able to boot Mayu. Mayu feeds out to the middle of the ring. Sarah Yamaoka hits this insane spear off the second rope. I was like, wow, that was terrific. And then Mayu and Sari, they exchange German suplexes. Eventually, though, Sarah gets the better of the German suplexes. She hits 2 crazy back-to-back whipping German suplexes, and then the Aoki clutch. The Aoki clutch, easy for me to say. That scores Sari a 2.9 count. If you remember, that was a combination that did defeat Mayu, those several German suplexes and the Aoki clutch. So I really liked how it was a callback there. Mayu was able to come back and slow Steri's onslaught down with a super kick. And then they eventually tag out. We get a great form exchange with Kamomo Manami and Victoria Yuzuki. Kamomo actually gets the better of that form exchange and then hits the float over DDT on the Victoria Yuzuki for a 2 count. Folks, if you watched The Rock back in the day, used to call it the laying the smackdown DDT, also known as the crucifix DDT. So it's got a lot of names, folks. But I thought that was great. I hope Kamomo Manami does that more often. Excellent stuff there. Mayu comes in, and then she hits a head kick on Victoria Yuzuki. Kamomo Manami then plants Victoria with another DDT. That scores Kamomo Manami a 2.9 count. Excellent stuff there. Then Kamomo Manami hits this great snapping Golden Gate swing. So what the Golden Gate swing is, I think it was invented by Donovan Morgan, who lived out in the San Francisco area. That's why I think it's called the Golden Gate swing, because the Golden Gate Bridge. But basically, you're setting somebody up for a fisherman suplex, but instead of taking the suplex bump, you do a neck breaker bump. So that's why I always call it the Golden Gate swing. But she has this great snapping Golden Gate swing on Victoria Yuzuki. Kamomo Manami is looking phenomenal in this match. They did a great job really highlighting her, and Kamomo really took advantage of her. I thought she was terrific. Sarah Yomioka, she comes in for the save to help out Victoria Yuzuki. She hits the passing drop kick that sends Mayu out to the floor. Kamomo Manami is eventually pitched to the floor. Victoria Yuzuki hits a picture perfect dive to the floor on both Kamomo and Momo, onto Mayu and Kamomo Manami. Victoria Yuzuki throws Kamomo back in the ring. She hits a super kick that scores her a 2 count. Sarah Yomioka pretty much takes out Mayu for the rest of the match on the outside. And then Victoria Yuzuki hits that wrist clutch backdrop suplex and follows up by finishing off the ever-game Kamomo Manami with a fantastic victory shooting splash for the 3 count. 10 minutes, 21 seconds, 4.25 stars for me. I enjoyed the time limit draw just a little bit better. But what a really great show. Really great show. Again, Arena and Hummingbird, fantastic match. Kazuna and Misa Matsui, just wish it got a little bit more time, but that was great. You had a great Darkness Revolution Army style match that eventually we did get to see some really great teamwork from Chikagoto and Kokiyama. And again, that's the way it looked like that they're going, is the reformation of that team. Then you ended this really solid show with 2 must-see tag matches. Again, Utami and Mirai versus Sakurai versus Miko Ano. Those exchanges with Ano and Utami were just right up my alley. Chef's kiss, and making me even more excited for that big championship match coming up in Sumo Hall in October. And you ended with just a terrific main event. Again, Mayu, arguably the greatest Joshi wrestler of all time, still in her prime. And then Sari and Victoria Yuzuki. Clearly, big things are afoot for the 2 of them. But this match was all about making Kamomo Manami, and they did a great job putting this together. Whoever agent this match or put this match together, I'm assuming Mayu's fingerprints were all over it because it's Mayu. But they did a great job making Kamomo Manami look like she's going to be somebody really important. And ultimately, Victoria Yuzuki overcomes Kamomo Manami and is able to get the 3 count. Again, I would love to see Kamomo team more up with Mayu because I thought they were absolutely terrific together. Again, a lot of great stuff on tap for Marigold. Interesting to see what is going to happen with some of these great young and up-and-coming wrestlers. Again, Rhea Sato in the Sendai Girls tournament with Sarah Yamioka and Victoria Yuzuki they're doing at such a young age and young in their pro wrestling careers is really impressive. And then you have leaders like Mayu in there. You have leaders like Utami in there. So excellent stuff. Again, really solid show. Fantastic stuff. Again, 2 matches ending the show at 4.25 stars. So, folks, that's it. No gaze at Julia this week. She wasn't on TV. My guess is they're still building up to a tag match, hopefully sometime in the future with Michin and BFAB versus Kiana James and one Julia. So that's gonna wrap this up, folks. I didn't think this was gonna go more than an hour. It's gonna clock in at about $1:05. So there's a lot of discussion on Mariah. And again, folks, let us know in the comment section what you think is going to happen. What would you like to see happen? You think she's going to go freelance? You think my wild idea where she's going to go to WWE and be Asuka's tag partner? Do you think that's a possibility? Let us know. Either in the comment section below or hit us up over on social media. And folks, you guys know how to get a hold of me. Matt Turner OF on the Instagram and the Twitter is the easiest, fastest, and best way to get a hold of me. Or you can shoot me an email. That's perfectly fine. The email address simply is thestardomcast22@gmail.com. Folks, that's going to wrap it up for another episode of the Marigold Standard. We greatly appreciate your support. Can't do without you. Like I always say, just not my podcast. It's our podcast. When it's all together, everybody's different. Everybody's special.